And the last story I brought to read to you tonight is the latest installment of Ezekiel Kralen's ongoing story about the two little dogs and his friend, Deke. Deke and Zeke, two different people. I Am Not the Rent Boy is the title of this, Ezekiel Kralen wrote. Email correspondence, June 9th, 2023. Subject, My Dream of Timothy. Date, June 9th. Timothy de Palma, that is. But first let me draw your attention to the attached image, a pinwheel quadriptych I created of one of our Castro Street cleaners to honor her kindness, which I should have included in my previous email about Deke's last visit, but forgot. She's been around the past several months, and that morning when Deke, the pups, and myself were sitting outside in peaceful rest under the gentle morning sun, she paused to ask how we're doing, with a lovely smile cast in our direction. I told her we're doing great. She humbly replied with a charming Caribbean accent, "So nice to hear that. I hope you all have a wonderful day now." I thanked her then for her kindly remark and wished her the same, and called out "thank you" once more as she moved along toward Castro Street. She is dark-skinned, petite, well under 5 feet, and a fine addition to our neighborhood. Deke, who was faced away from her and nodding off, suddenly awoke upon hearing my second thank you, turned to me and asked, "Oh, did she give us some money?" Just like him to say that. Now back to Timothy. He was never in my dreams before, so this is a first. He had just returned to live in my building, so I thought to go to Rosenberg's this morning, buy an extra blueberry muffin as a welcome-back gift. As I approached the shop's doorway, there he was, in a flash, looming right over me, his scowling face blocking my view of everything else as I looked up. "You are not the rent boy of 9666 Market Street," he admonished with grave hostility. Next thing I knew, I was returning hovel, pissed as fuck because I only had the best wishes for him, and here he had to hurl needless gloom into my world. Instead of a front gate, there was a ridiculously long stairway with a landing halfway up, so 40 steps in all, give or take, before you could enter the building proper. It was also alarmingly steep, so by the time I reached the entry, someone else was exiting, and I decided to lean against and grip the railing rather than risk an accidental trip or bump in passing and tumble down like Humpty Dumpty. He stopped immediately upon seeing me there, allowing me to pass first, but I gestured with a wave of my hand and said, "That's fine, go on ahead." Once I entered through the doorway, I found myself standing in Timothy's small studio apartment. No one else was there, and I stood around to discover a brown paper bag at my feet, partly crumpled and wide open. I picked it up to espy a handful or two of popcorn probably left over from last night. So I plunged my hand in to grab a small bunch, shoved it in my mouth, and thought just salt, no butter, definitely not store-bought. Disappointed at the lack of flavor, I was about to exit his place when I suddenly woke up. Talk about disappointing, Watson. Most uneventful, non-surrealistic dream ever. Is this any way for Timothy to pay me a visit after so many years of not seeing each other, even if the encounter was merely astral? I think not. Subject, here they are, right below my window. Date, June 10th, afternoon. Second picture is downstairs and close up. They dropped by about an hour ago, delightfully uneventful meet-up thus far, and I expect it to remain so until they depart. It's actually a rather sleepy afternoon in the Castro, hardly anyone out and about. Deke just wanted me to bring them a meal and a razor so he can shave his hairless face. A pointless endeavor, though it doesn't irk me, as I'm only out a few pennies each time. If only Deke's friendship were that inexpensive overall, or even just half what he costs me thanks to his foolishly wasteful behavior. While I was sitting by the dogs as they ate, our USPS resident, Boaz, pulled up in a mail truck and stepped out to deliver some packages a few doors down. I know he saw me, but didn't say a word. I was wondering if he'd frown at a homeless person's presence, obviously my friend, or worse, harass me and upset the doggies. In light of his explosive behavior the other night, I had good reason for concern. Though just yesterday, after returning from Rosenberg's with my morning elixir, our paths crossed as he rolled a cart filled with mail to the street corner where he crossed. He gave me a friendly, "Hey, Zeke," and I returned the favor. After feeding the mutts, I brought down their sleeping bag and a large trash bag to lay out on the sidewalk to keep the comforter clean. Their master zonked out only minutes after they arrived, his bicycle tilted against the parking meter, which would be a problem if it remained there, to other hominids, not the canines, so I moved it back a bit and carefully set it down sideways. The hounds enjoyed their treats, too. I sat with them for 20 minutes or so, then returned hovel. I'll be going back out there now and then to enjoy their company and them mine. This may very well be the most boring missive I've sent you to date, Watson, but considering the human company and his long history of screeching temper tantrums, I'd say boring is splendiferous. And at the end, subject, someone stole his speaker. Date June 10th, evening. I just peered out my window again, and the speaker's not in the cart. Now I'm going to have to go downstairs and wake him and tell him the bad news. He'll probably blame me for the theft, as if I'm supposed to be watching out my window all the time he's there. So much for a peaceful meet-up. I will update you soon. To be continued.